Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Afternoon Tune. I am your host, Josh, and with me is my co-host here.
Dusk, nice seeing you guys.
And today we got a nice show. Going to be discussing some movies here. Matrix Resurrections, pretty divisive movie. It is the sequel, well, actually third sequel to the Matrix trilogy here, the Matrix franchise. And so it's directed by only Lana Wachowski, not Lily Wachowski. She did not return to come back and direct this, so it's just her. So we'll be getting into that. Going to be discussing Matrix Resurrections. So this is a movie that both of us saw. Like I said, it's directed by Lana Wachowski, who's came back to direct this movie. After long awaited. I know there's always been talks about possibly another Matrix movie coming along down the pipeline after the third one, Revolutions, and it's finally here. You have the returning stars, Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss. You also have some new faces here. You got Jessica Hedwig, who's came back, who's kind of a newcomer in there, a fresh face here as well. And in kind of this, like I said, with this movie, it kind of is trying to bring Matrix back a little bit to the familiar to what people kind of know, but it's also trying to be meta in a way. You'll hear that word a lot with it. I think a lot of other critics have compared this to like The Last Jedi and New Nightmare. And I guess in those comparisons, where you get those comparisons is because the movie for the first hour of it is very self-referential to the fact that they're doing a Matrix sequel. Because in the Matrix, you have Keanu, who's going by his by his slave name, Thomas Anderson, and he's in the Matrix, and he's this huge game developer, and he actually, in this version of this Matrix, he created a video game called The Matrix, and his boss calls him in, who's played by Jonathan Groff. And he says, hey, they even name drop specifically Warner Brothers in this movie. They say Warner Brothers wants us to do another sequel to The Matrix. And it's like, as soon as he says that, it's almost like Keanu Reeves, he gets like an anxiety attack. Like he gets PTSD. He's like, oh shit, not another sequel to The Matrix. And, that's kind of the first hour of it is talking about this. And there's even a scene where he's sitting around with other people discussing about like, oh yeah, we need to make a sequel to The Matrix, or what's gonna be like, what did people love about the first Matrix, and oh, it was this critique on capitalism, and oh yeah, but people love the action in it, and we got to bring that in this, and it's just, he's just sitting there, and I can only imagine this is what it was like for Lana and Lily Wachowski when they came, when they went to like Warner Brothers, did a board meeting with other executives and producers, and was like, hey, we need you to do another sequel to The Matrix, after the first Matrix, because I think, to my knowledge, there was never really supposed to even be a sequel to the first Matrix.
Not even the first one, no.
No, there wasn't. They had no plans to do a sequel to the first one. They struck gold, and it became this huge cultural phenomenon with first Matrix. And we discussed the Matrix trilogy on a prior show, where we went through all three of the movies, really mainly the second and the third one, because Reloaded and Revolutions. Because the first one's the first one. It was like I said, it was a
solid, well-rounded movie. Did what it needed to do.
Yeah,
and then kind of that's where the franchise kind of starts to fall apart. Is around when they start making sequels to it.
Yeah,
I even brought up in that show where it's like it was almost a doomed presence to make anything afterwards, because it ends in such a powerful, a nice note that you're like, and done. Leave it up to your imagination. Doesn't matter what happens afterwards.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it ends with Neo. I mean, it ends basically, like, it ends pretty in a badass way. Rage Against the Machine is playing. Yeah. He puts on the sunglasses and he flies up into the sky. I mean, it's like, okay, that's a pretty great ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And literally talking to the machines above, saying like, I'm going to show people what you don't want them to see. They're going to wake up and they're going to rise up, and you better be ready. And he just pulls back and shows all the different machinery. And then he shows that by just destroying the rules and just flying.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can't top that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then, so, we discussed the other movies, Reload and Revolutions, how they kind of overly became too focused on the action, kind of over, kind of convoluted, confusing, and then try to just do all this heavy dose of all this other stuff here. So here you have Resurrections here. And there's some good things and there's some bad things about it, just like any movie. And I rarely say any movie's just straight up trash. I try to find the good things about anything and say like, okay, well, what here about it worked and what, really didn't. And it's just the
You really
amount
do.
of what worked and what didn't work. I will say that Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss coming back, I think works. I think they
Mm-hmm.
fit well coming back, and I think this movie very much hinges on their relationship. And if you ever watched the other prior movies, their love was kind of a big part of the movies as well and their relationship. And I even like some of the newcomers. Like there's a new crew here working with Neo. Like I said, I mentioned Jessica Hedwig, who's a new person in this, and I think she's very good. I think she's very good to watch. I think almost maybe it should have been a thing where it was more focused on her, and then maybe trying to get maybe Neo more out of the Matrix. Like maybe that should have been more of the movie, and instead of just trying to really go back to basics, because I think this movie does what a lot of the other sequels did, like Reload and Revolutions, where it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
becomes a little overly convoluted. But what are kind of your thoughts on the movie?
Um. By the way, Jessica Henwick's character's name is Bugs.
Yes, Bugs.
Just so she's the blue-haired character with the white rabbit tattoo on her arm. This movie, we initially saw the trailer for it, and we all saw and we talked about it, and Nick was the most excited out of us, and I agreed with him at the time, and I said, I had no interest, but that trailer, whoever cut that trailer still deserves an award or some promotion because whoever cut that, they did a fantastic job of taking this movie and making it just interesting and kind of digestible. I was never really interested in seeing a fourth one, but that trailer did intrigue me. It's like, okay, you have my interest now. You've captured my interest. Let's see if the movie meets that. Unfortunately, I don't know about you, but the movies didn't really live up to that trailer. It didn't really live up to it. And in many ways, it has some interesting ideas here. It has some neat ideas, but I think ultimately it almost becomes a little too meta for its own good. And I'm sorry, this movie's 2.5 hours. They could have cut an hour out of this movie and saved us a lot of time. Because there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of back and forth that really doesn't need to be there. And it would really help the story. If you just cut wide swath a lot of it out.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Because I think that for people coming into this movie, like I said, the first hour of it is very meta. It's very self-referential, right? And then they even cut to scenes of the first Matrix. They do little lines of dialogue.
Mhm.
And hello, Vivian. How are you? Vivian is here from the
Hello.
Mean Queens. You can go follow her at This Is Vivian. She's very good. Streams a lot. Her and Baby Girl Sadie's and Sorry Not Sorry. Very good trio of streamers. Highly recommend you guys check them out. Thank you for showing up. But like I said, the first half of it is really really good in the meta sense of it, and I kind of like some of that stuff. I thought it was kind of funny. Now you're either gonna hate it because I saw some people go like, well, it's kind of really up its own ass and really talking down to the actual fans who actually like these movies and everything like that. So you're gonna like that or not like that so much. And
Mhm.
I could see why I could kind of go either way there. Also, um, I think a lot of this movie spends time trying to really spoon feed people
Yeah.
the message of the Matrix, because the Matrix, people know like the thing of the red pill, blue pill thing has become like a big, cultural thing now.
Oh,
Uh,
it's a huge meme. It's a whole movement.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's taking the red pill and everything like that. And people have kind of missed the whole point of the Matrix. So it's kind of like in this movie, Lana Wachowski is trying to tell people, it's like trying to like talk shit to all those people who actually take her movie, which was this trans allegory now, and trying to turn it into this whole kind of crazy movement. And it's like she's trying to go like, no, no, no. I'm telling you, this is what this is about. You know what I mean? And I think that distracts from actually talking about what the movie, instead of making a good movie and trying to
Yeah.
focus on that. I think it's just too much of that. I mean, there's even a scene where an older character comes back who's in the prior Matrix movie just to rant over a fight scene that's happening about texting and Wikipedia and all this other
Oh
stuff. It's like,
yeah.
what is this?
Yeah, that was there's a couple of moments in the movie where I'm going, what is this? What are you doing?
Yeah.
I, who cut this out? This shouldn't even be. We shouldn't even be here. I agree with you on a lot of fronts. This movie did feel like if you're going to have their meta moments are often, unfortunately, not that. There's some moments that could have been clever, but for the most part, it does feel like it's banging you over the head, where they don't treat the audience with any respect or any level of intelligence, and they're just going to feed you exactly what this is, and it kind of removes the fun of the original interpretation. The first movie was a risk. It was a big risk. It had a very limited budget. They did the limited action scenes because they didn't have the budget to do a bunch of them, so they had to pick carefully. And with this long running time, bless you. Even with a long amount of running, just the action scenes, I'm sorry, just aren't that impressive. Did you notice, by the way, in all the action scenes, Keanu Reeves never once held a gun?
Yeah, I did notice that. Well, I mean, he didn't really hold a gun them. Oh, after the first movie, I don't think he really
Yeah.
held a gun all that much. He just
No, no. But you have Keanu Reeves, aka Mr. John Wick. He prides himself on his fight choreography. It's like one of the things he's really nailed and gotten really good as he's gone on. He really prides himself. He knows gun form. He knows how to move in and out. He knows how to defend himself. They could have really utilized this in this movie and really brought that, especially where he doesn't know how to use powers anymore. That would have been a great way of like showing how he's improved. Doesn't hold a gun once, and the action scenes aren't really, if we're gonna be honest, aren't that great.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. And the action scenes. I mean, Matrix is known for the action, right? And
Oh boy.
yeah, and when you watch the first one, and even like Reloaded, where we talked about in Reloaded, where there's just scenes of people fighting just because it's like fuck it, let's
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
fight. You know what I mean? Like why? Because fuck it, why not? This looks cool, so let's just fight. And it was always well choreographed. It looked well. It was shot well. This one, it's super close. There's a lot of quick edits, and you bring up Keanu Reeves and his experience with the John Wick movies, and I think that's just a different style of action as opposed
It
to with these movies.
absolutely, but they could have still really utilized it, even in a wide angle, even when pushing back, even when letting it go, because they've done that with his action choreography in Gone with too. They just pulled back and just let the action go.
But I think sometimes, I mean, Keanu Reeves, he is an older guy, and he does look good
True.
in the John Wick movies, and the choreography there is done really well. But I was trying to think of like why is it shot
Mhm.
so close like this, and why is it so these quick
Yeah.
edits? Is it because that the stuff that is required to do these Matrix movies, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of kung fu that's involved. You know what I mean? There's a lot
True.
of karate, and maybe it's that can't really do those movements quite much anymore. It doesn't look as fluid,
Mm.
and because there was some scenes where you could see where he's trying to like punch and kick, and it's like it just doesn't look all that convincing to me.
Oh yeah,
And some
there would be moments where they would just swing and then they would just push a sound effect.
Yeah, it just didn't look all that convincing to me when he was doing it. And for this movie to really hinge on Carrie Ann Moss and his relationship, they're not really in all that many scenes together, which also kind
Yeah.
of limits things. And then some of the newcomers, you have Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who's like playing Morpheus, and the way that they explain how he is Morpheus and everything like that. It's kind of this, I don't know. It's kind of this interesting new way where the humans and machines and what they do, and I won't kind of talk about that much because it's kind of a spoiler. But how he kind of comes into the situation is like, okay, that's slightly kind of interesting. And I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I think he's a fantastic actor. He's having a great career right now. He's on a real
Mm.
upswing. He's on fire right now. I think the most interesting thing about his Morpheus was really just his outfits. It's like Yahya Abdul Mateen took his wardrobe from the Get Down, the Netflix show, and just brought it here because he wears some very
Mhm.
stylish, loud outfits. Bright
Yeah, he does.
orange, blue, green. He wears like a whole Joker fit at one time. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I think that's
Really
kind of
contrasts from the Lawrence Fishburne's interpretation of Morpheus. Actually, from just the other movies, everything is very. Those came out in the '90s, where everything was like black and black leather and glasses. Very '90s. What they thought was cool in '90s. Very little color, very little at all. And this one's just like screw that. All the colors.
well.
Get all the rainbow.
He was the only one that was really dressing that
Oh
loud.
yeah.
Everybody else still maintained like the black glasses
Hmm.
and the black kind of latex stuff and everything
Yeah.
like that, sex dungeon look. Everybody
True. Oh
kind of
yeah. Very much.
kind of maintained it. And like I said, that so the action scenes aren't even that good. They really, first half would really, reference the first movie. It just makes me want to really go back and watch the first movie again. It doesn't really it doesn't keep me engaged in this movie. And
Mhm.
I understand maybe you're trying to also talk to people that haven't seen maybe the first Matrix or the second Matrix or the third Matrix. You're trying to talk to those people as well. But it just is like, I just really want to go back and watch the first one again. And there's even a point where even there's everybody like they're watching scenes play out in live action of the first Matrix. You know what I mean? Just up front row. They go, oh,
Mhm.
shut up, shut up. This is my favorite scene. Oh, I gotta watch this scene. I love this scene. I love this part. This is my favorite part. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, this is just too much for me. And you have Jada Pinkett Smith also, who's a returning person,
Mhm.
from the Matrix franchise, Niobe,
Niobe.
who comes back. A lot of makeup done with her because this is supposed to be, well, I won't say, a little bit about that, but you have. I think the makeup on her wasn't all that good. I think it looks
No, not
kind of
really.
bad. And then you have like Jonathan Groff, who, he's another new guy here. He's not bad, but for him to be kind of this other antagonist in the movie, he doesn't live up to Hugo Weaving, to that kind of performance. Even the explanation as to why Agent Smith is back, or Neo is back, or
Hmm.
Trinity is back, it's kind of lazy. It's kind of just like, okay, I
Yeah.
guess they can just all of a sudden do this now.
Hmm.
I don't even think they even gave a clear explanation as to why Agent Smith was back. I don't think.
Agent Smith, not really. They try to explain why Neo and Trinity are back, and it's also just makes as little sense. They both make equally makes no sense, but I mean, without that, you kind of almost don't have a premise of a new movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, well, let me correct myself. You almost have a presence. You wouldn't have the presence of this movie. There are many things they could have done with the sequel to The Matrix. Hell, with even this own premise, there are a lot of cool things they could have done that would have been much more cerebral and interesting. But this movie just it's like every creative decision that could have gone to a really interesting place that was kind of hinted in trailer, they really don't do. It's simultaneously it's convoluted and really simple.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of is there, and I think you see kind of some of the stuff like some of the stuff kind of works a little bit action wise with like the force push that he kind of does, like where he kind of releases all this energy at once and everything like that,
Hmm.
like Neo does. That's maybe cool the first time he does it, or second
Yeah,
time, but then after a while it becomes kind of boring. After a while, like okay,
yeah.
it's not as cool as the other action scenes that you've seen the other Matrix movies do. And it does something in sci-fi that I really hate with like relationships and stuff like that. Of I don't want to say it because it might be a spoiler, but it does something I really don't like with love and conquering all. And I'm like, okay, I really do not like that. And when they do that in sci-fi stuff, a lot of times. And how did you feel about Neil Patrick Harris in this? What did you think about his performance and his role in this as as Thomas Anderson, Neo's therapist in this?
As as a character, I wasn't quite sure whether or not he was supposed to have comedic moments. or this movie it was supposed to be comedic, or if that was just his performance. And that really kind of bothered me because sometimes they're like, am I supposed to be taken this serious? But then I'll have like a little humorous moment just because Neil Patrick Harris is that kind of a actor, and the lines, the way they're written for him, I as a character, I think he's okay,
Mm,
but he doesn't really do anything. He's not really in it a lot,
mm, mm.
and it's kind of you kind of go, well, all right then. And then he has this certain power. I'm not going to spoil. But he has a certain power that when he explains how he got that power, you go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And especially who it can affect and who it can't. And then it makes even less sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just kind of go, well, this movie feels like there was one or two drafts. Like they got some of the ideas forward, but no one thought real hard on it.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Like this movie at the end of the day, I guess I don't know. There's not much else really to say without going into spoilers, and I don't really want to. Um, this movie it feels like they wanted to make a very meta movie, but what they should have done is make a good movie with meta themes around it.
Right. Like, I think the whole idea of him being this game developer who's making the video game The Matrix and
Yeah,
he's forced to, I think that's kind of a good idea and it could be
yeah.
funny and depending on how you do it. And I
It
even think it's slightly kind of good here.
could have
But
been dark too.
yeah, you know what I mean? And there's even a line that Jessica Hedwig has that really reminded me of the old Matrix movies,
Yeah,
where she talks about how the Matrix they take kind of they kind of take it and kind of warp what you hate about it and then use it against you. And I thought that was like really good. I thought that was a really good line. You know what I mean?
that's a in a sea of lines. That's one I did remember. That
Yeah,
did feel more Matrix-y.
yeah, I thought that was like that's tapping into like what is cool about the Matrix, you know what I mean? And
Right.
because when people, the fight scenes is great, the action stuff, but it was also, kind of that little dose of little philosophy and a little, there to drop in there as well, little nuggets here and there too to keep you also like, hey, you got a little something to snack on in between the action stuff that keeps you kind of thinking. And this one it it tries to kind of do that, but then it goes back to what we didn't like about Revolutions and Reloaded, where just overstuffed and overbloated and doesn't really know what you're kind of talking about. It's like, what are you talking about? And okay, this is like you said, it's overly convoluted, but it's also very simple too at the same time. And it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I didn't hate it. You know what I mean. I didn't think it was
Yeah.
complete garbage or anything like that. I just thought it's just on par for these Matrix sequels. I don't think the best thing the Matrix has done since the first one is Animatrix. That's probably the
Yeah.
best thing it's done since. And that
Yeah, pretty much.
Animatrix came out all the way in what, 04, I think.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Back in the just past the golden era of anime to what I consider like this tiny window from like 2001 to like 2007 and 8, around when Cowboy Bebop and a couple other series kind of came out. I consider that like the platinum era. It's like where some of the best of the modern era came out, and then like a flash, it was done, and it just dropped immediately. So it came out kind of where everyone was trying something interesting and new, and yeah, geez, 2004 all the way back then. That's kind of it, really. And
Yeah.
maybe like the first half of like maybe like a half of Reloaded.
Yeah. Reloaded was kind of dope a little bit. I mean, maybe it's just because the action scenes were that spectacular.
It's not. What interested me actually though more was actually the Meridian and Persephone, basically Hades and Persephone being trapped. When it started going to the kind of myths and Greek and other stuff angles, I'm like, ooh, this is kind of cool. I wonder where they're gonna go. Oh, they're just
Yeah.
that's it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, maybe some of the video games too, like Path of Neo, or that was also kind of cool, I guess.
Athemia was okay.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of on par, of course, with some of these major sequels. They're really not good all that much. So
Hmm.
it's kind of on par with, of course, with kind of those. I like it better
The
than
video game
Revolution.
that came out is pretty awesome.
Oh, you said the
The new
game?
tech demo.
Oh yeah, yeah, the tech demo. Oh yeah, that did look. It did look good.
Tech demo is awesome.
It looked good. Yeah, it looked good. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would give it for me. I'd give it a stream it.
Hmm.
Kind of a yeah, a stream it. I think you just watch it at home. It's on HBO Max anyway. It's
Yeah.
streaming till like January 21st. I think it said on
Yeah.
there. So just yeah, sit at home, kind of watch it. I don't think it's necessary to go to the theater to go see it. Maybe
Oh,
sit
no.
at home, watch it. Maybe try to rewind a couple times. Maybe you'll
Yeah.
get a better understanding of what's happening, and then you can just sit at home and watch all the Matrix from 1 to 4 because they're all on HBO Max. And you can just do a binge real right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I think it introduces some cool ideas. Not really all that fleshed out. I do like Keanu and Carrie Ann Moss returning. I do like some of the newcomers like Jessica Hedwig, and I do like a little bit of Yahya Abdul-Mateen, but he doesn't compare to the gravitas that Lawrence Fishburne had.
Oh,
Um,
no.
and the crew that they're kind of with in this movie, like on the ship. You don't really get to know them at all. They're not really all
No.
that well defined. Not like how it was in the first one. You really got a good sense of the characters on the ship and kind of a little bit of their
Hmm.
personalities. They're just kind of there for the most part. Not really kind of. I guess. I mean, the movie's already long enough, but you don't really get to spend
Yeah.
all that much time with them. So yeah, I would just give it kind of just a stream it for me. What about you?
Uh, yeah, I have to fall in the same area we are. It's definitely a stream it. I didn't think this movie was awful and trash. I didn't think this movie was good or great. It kind of falls in this middling, like, eh. It's got some interesting ideas, but it just doesn't gel with any of it and doesn't really go in certain directions. There's also some. I'll talk to you afterwards after we're kind of recording, but there were some interesting ideas there that I thought they were totally going to go for it, but they didn't. It kind of led me a little. You're like, oh, it was all set up for you, and you didn't do it. But okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this movie is very much a stream. If you're a big fan of Matrix, there's no reason for you to see this in theaters. Heck, there's not even a reason for you to go see it in a theaters at all, even in a matinee. Watch it at home, stream it, have a good time, and then if you feel like you don't have yourself a whole Matrix marathon if you really want to it, or just go, after that, well, we go back to the original one, see what it's all about, and you'll probably enjoy yourself a lot more.
Yeah.